Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, if you're new here, my name is Tori, and you're seeing this video probably on the 29th, and this is how the week has gone for me. So I figured I would kind of share what happens when I go through a planner slump. I don't go through many of them, and it always happens around September or October for me, which it feels kind of counterintuitive because I feel like fall and autumn are like naturally like cozy planning times, but for some reason I lose steam after August. I have my birthday and then I'm just like, I don't know. I lose the plot. So it's without fail in every planner I've ever had that September and October become the months of really committing and building a habit for discipline's sake. So yes, this is a hobby for me, and this is my memory keeper. This is what I keep with me. I also use my personal rings as a wallet and an everyday carry planner. And then my third, which, wow, I don't even know where it is right now. Oh my gosh. Okay. My third part of my system is my hobonichiweeks, which will not be returning for 2025, sadly, because I am going to be using a different system. So an update on that before I get started on this long thing that I want to talk about is that I use the Hobonichi or the Hobonichi cousin. Wow. I use the Hobonichi A5 Hone, this thing, for keeping memories of what happens throughout the week for me. Just to be able to look back and be like, when did this happen? Or what was going on in the week that, you know, was affecting me? Because I also use the back of the Hobonichi for my journal. So all of these pages are really personal diary entries. And it's a habit that I want to maintain even when I struggle to fill the pages out, right? So this is this week. I've been putting down some happy planner stickers in the dailies so I can get rid of them. Like the dailies are where all of my stickers go, just so I can use them up. But this is essentially what it's looking right now. So this is, yes, it's a hobby, but I also journal for my mental health and to keep myself stable. I'm not like, you know, I don't have any diagnoses or anything that are really concerning, but I do have some mental health diagnoses. So this is a really big tool to use to just journal. It doesn't have to be anything profound. I normally just talk about every single part of my day, and if I have an emotional response to something, that's the time that I take to kind of explore that, why I think I had it, etc. So I have been struggling to stay in my planning system. I have not even utilized my rings, really. I pull it out when I need to pay for something, but the last day I planned was the 25th of September, and I hadn't planned anything before that. And then the weekly looks like that for now. This previous week looked like this, but I stopped picking it up. And so this week was just like make do with my on-the-go stickers, because I was just like, I guess I should put a week down. It wasn't even for functional purposes. It was just because, like, maybe I should plan something. I don't know. So I have not, like, I literally just pick this up when I need to pay for something because I use it also as my wallet. This usually is the red-headed stepchild of my system. It has weekly spreads in it that I use, but again, like, I haven't used this since September the 16th, and before that, maybe the 14th, and I struggle to keep up in here as well. So, that all being said, I made myself a little list here that I'm looking at right here. But I have like 5 things that I try to keep in mind when I go through a planner slump, because it's inevitable. Like, human beings are very fluid. I don't know anything that I do 365 days of the year perfectly. Like, I legitimately don't. Maybe that's me. Maybe you're like, oh, that's a shame for you. I do this every single day of my life. Other than like waking up, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know of anything that I do every single day. And that could potentially be on me and my issues with depression and anxiety. But that's the reality of my life, I guess. So, maintaining a habit is important for me. And even though, yes, this is, like I said, an enjoyable hobby, I do want to, keep going, right? So, the first thing that I would say is not to force it, but also force it at the same time. And I know that doesn't make sense, but if it's something that's valuable to you and you feel unanchored without it, I think it's worth choosing discipline over pleasure in the moment. Because even if you don't feel like doing it, it does help to push through those emotions at times, to get to an end result that you're really proud of. So like, number one is like, figure out what is the purpose? Like, why do you do this? And if it's just for pleasure, then don't force it. But if it is for deeper purposes and you do like to document your journal or your weeks or whatever, I would say choose discipline first. Because I feel like I'm happy with myself in the long run. Even, you know, for pages that I don't want to do, I don't remember not wanting to write them, right? Also, I have kind of built in a fail-safe for myself of when I do have days where it's just impossible for me. I'm either sick, like, for example, this week in February, I had like some kind of flu COVID situation that wasn't flu or COVID or whatever. I literally was not like able to form a solid thought this entire week. I was in bed. I was having a fever for like the whole week. It was a hot mess. So naturally, these pages are not filled with like my everyday thoughts in my daily pages, right? I ended up taking some journal prompts and writing them on some pages. And then I also created a system for myself that kind of supports that discipline that I want to create within keeping a journal. And I call it my random thought log. And it is in the back here. Let me just try to find it. I use the back note page here. So anytime that I have a page in this size is A5. So anytime I have a page with extra room on it that's significant enough where I think, well, I could use some of that space for something later, I log it of like what day I used, and then like what number the log is, and like what the topic is. So it's kind of like a running index of additional entries that aren't necessarily date specific to the day that they're on, if that makes sense. And I do date these. So, let's see if I can show you one. Give me just a second to look. Okay, so this is actually February the 1st, and I had a little bit of space here. It wasn't a lot, but it did feel a little bit empty to me. So I just wrote about a book I was reading at the time that I didn't have, like, I hadn't finished it, but I was like getting to a point where I was almost done with it, and I was like really enjoying it. So I wanted to jot down some like stream of consciousness thoughts about why I liked the book that I was reading at the time. So that's kind of how I utilize extra space in my journal, or days when I don't end up I guess, needing the page or some of the space on the page. And sometimes it's the whole page, sometimes it's a half a page, and sometimes it's like a fifth of the page. It really just allows me to spread out when I need it, but also to have extra space for when I want to write something down. But it's not necessarily like journal-y, in my opinion. And so that's kind of how I have been trying to support the discipline that I want to build within keeping a journal. And then, so like I said, number one would be force it, but don't. Try to figure out like the reason behind your planning system. And then for me, a lot of the time, the biggest thing isn't really having to do with any of the system at all. It's recognizing that it's like an external symptom of internal stress. Because when I'm really feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I don't want to make more plans for myself, and I don't always want to write down why I'm feeling that way. Like, I don't want to visit the feelings. I just want to get out of the feeling, and being in a journal or planning doesn't help me do that. So, usually what I do is I try to focus and just understand that I will come back to the planner when I'm ready for it. And sometimes I write little post-it notes about what happened on the day so I can go back and journal about it or something like that. But really, it's not looking at the planner system as a failure, but is that my mental capacity for it just can't meet that in that moment right now. And then like the third thing that I would do is I often like to revisit old planners that I've archived for inspiration and to just kind of understand why I do this in the first place. Because looking back on a year and seeing everything that I thought throughout the day and the weeks, and just seeing it all come together in one cohesive book, it really does kind of motivate you to keep going. Just thumbing through an old Hobonichi, an old planner, whatever you have that you still have kept because it has some memories in it. That is a really helpful way for me to stay motivated to keep going, even if I'm weeks behind. And then the fourth one would be to brainstorm topics to write about or lean on the random thoughts log. So usually I have one or two things that I'm thinking about that I can just write a page on at any given moment. And I feel like that's everybody, right? Like, we have stuff going on in our lives that we could write about, and it's not necessarily about our emotions. It's not necessarily about anything that's happened between us and others. It's about something that we're interested in and that we want to talk about, but we don't necessarily feel like rambling about to somebody else. This kind of thing is what I see a lot of people do about like their 2025 plans or their plans for planners for the next year, because they either want to share it with the planner community or just want to kind of figure out their thoughts on paper because they're so excited, right? So some topics that I usually use is like a movie that I watched, or a YouTube video I've watched, or something like that. Like right now I am currently very obsessed with the two main leads for Bridgerton season 3. It is a situation for myself. My mental power is like dying for them to get together. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's either here or there. That being said, I can utilize that interest and that energy to write a page in my A5 journal about it, right? And then the last thing is to utilize space for creativity. So maybe you don't want to journal, you're not a journaler, but you do want to add something to your blank pages that you have missed. And my suggestion, though I don't really do it in my journal actually, would be to find something or find an old magazine. I get a lot of magazines in the mail that I don't ask for. And I actually utilize them for collaging. And that can look like a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I utilize it most in my reading journal. And I just pull pictures from different magazines and stickers, whatever I deem necessary to tell the story of the book I was reading at the time. So for example, this flower here is from a magazine. This flower is from a magazine. Stuff like that. It seems really simple, but I mean, if you're just uninspired and unmotivated, like these are from magazines. And they're like little beaded flowers that somebody made. Like leaves and a flower from beads. So yeah, I feel like using elements from magazines and just getting your hands in something can also alleviate some of that like stagnation that you feel as well. So that is kind of where I'm at with my system right now. I am in a slump and it happens. I do plan on my next video being kind of a backlog with me type of situation. And it's also like, this is also why I want to kind of change my system for next year, right? Because if I can streamline it and make it a little better for myself, I would love to do that. And I never reach for this sky. I think the weeks is such a cute little size, and I know it has enchanted many a planner user, but I don't know, it just doesn't work for my system, I guess. I don't know. So like I've shared before, my weekly planning and my goal keeping was in these two situations, right? Like I would memory keep my week here, and then I would try to create some yearly goals for myself based on the Moxie Life system and keep that going in here. But I found that the separation of these two things it felt too overwhelming and chaotic for my brain. So next year I will be using the Hemlock and Oak, which has goal planning in the beginning of it, and I think will really work seamlessly with my weekly memory keeping. And I'm excited because it is a little bit wider than the Hobonichi columns as well, so I feel like it'll be more versatile for whatever I want to use it for. And then I also have a Paper Test Designs. I think I chose the B6 this year, actually. And B6 isn't a size I've ever used before. I know everybody loves it, but I've always done A5. So the Paper Test Designs layout has a layout similar to this horizontal weekly on the first page of the week. The months are included at the beginning of each month. Like if this was the beginning of October, October's calendar would be here. I know the term is like their rolling monthlies, or you know what I'm saying. The month is there, and then the weeks, and then another month. That's what I'm saying. But so I use the monthly in this planner to write about one good thing that happened during that day. And then the weeks I use to talk about anything that piqued my anxiety, that evoked an emotional response out of me, something that I'm stressed about. Like this is where I try to crack down on emotional management and reflection. And then on this side, I do some habit tracking, some weekly intentions, and then I reflect on this bottom portion. And I'm basically planning on doing all of this in the Paper Test Designs B6, because it will be a journal on this side, as well as including those aspects of everything that I like to do in this week's, just on a B6 page. And if I overflow, I can utilize an additional notebook, whatever I need to do. But this isn't enough space, and sometimes this is too much space. So trying to find a happy medium is how I got led to the B6. And so the B6 will take over a portion of this and a portion of this from Paper Test Designs, and then the Hemlock and Oak will take over the weekly planning that I have here and the goal planning that I have here. The only thing that will stay the same for me next year is the everyday carry in my rings. And yeah, the paper test designs is on the way. The hemlock and oak has not shipped yet, but when they do, I will definitely come in here and show them off to you, because I'll have received my beautiful new babies, and I will have begun to pre-plan the plants. So I hope this was somewhat helpful or encouraged you to keep going in your planner if you're in a slump. If you have any questions, give me a comment below. I love speaking with you all and engaging, and I've just been in a slump and overwhelmed with everything, so I apologize for my lack of engagement. But as always, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.